This is Scott Patterson, Agent Peter Strom from the Saw franchise, and you're listening to Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. And oh yes, there will be blood.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast. Just want to thank all of our fans and listeners. Really appreciate the support. You guys are awesome. Before we get into tonight's film review, just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Everything about our podcast is on the website. All of our episodes and interviews, if you want to check those out. We've done some incredible interviews in the past. Go check them out there in a specific tab by themselves so you don't have to scroll through hundreds of episodes on Apple or Spotify, etc. We also have our store if you want to grab a shirt, a mouse pad, a hat, all that good stuff. We'd love to see your pictures, rep your favorite podcast. And Shan's Etsy page is also attached if you want to grab a tumbler. All of our social media links are on there as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Like us, subscribe us, follow us, all that good stuff. And the last thing I'm going to shout out on our website is our Patreon. We call it Blood Donors. We have the traditional monthly reoccurring kind. If you want to support us, help us pay the bills, as we say. Or if there's a movie you want us to review, that option is available as well. Just check out our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Also, if you haven't noticed, we've recently joined the Believe Network. So there's some ads on our program now. But if you want ad-free content, go check us out on Blood Donors. The ad-free episodes will be available there. We appreciate your support. We hope you enjoy the episode. All right, guys, get into the film review. This week is my pick, taking us back to the Saw franchise. I'm really excited for this one. 2007 Saw 4, one of my personal favorite entries. Just for the sake of time, I'll be quick. I love this movie. It's my second favorite of the franchise. I'm really excited to review it. Got the Saw shirt on. Met Costas and Shawnee recently. I'm excited. Almost our 5th year anniversary. Hell yeah, brother. Brian, what do you think?
I can't remember personally where I ranked this in my Saw rankings, but I remember them all being very high until right after this film. And upon this rewatch, nothing's really changed for me. I still think 1 through 4 is peak in this franchise. But again, I pretty much like all of them. Like I've mentioned before, I'm admittedly not the biggest fan of Hoffman, but that doesn't include this film. He doesn't feel just shoehorned into me in this one like he does in other ones. It just seems more organic anyway. I love the nonlinear storytelling aspect of this one. I love the additions of Peter Strom, friend of the show, Peter Strom. I love how it ties everything together that we've seen up to this point. Boseman's back in the director's chair after doing 2 and 3 previously. And, would go on to do Spiral, which, I know we're split on here. But I think he continues to do a great job in this one. And this movie is going to get an extremely high score from me.
Turn that shit up. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember ranking this a little lower than I think the rest of you guys when we did our Saw rankings. And here's the thing. I did like it more this time around. And I've seen this movie plenty of times. 5, 6, 7, 8, around there. Anytime I watch a Saw marathon, it's included. I think some of my nitpicks were like the scavenger hunt. I know, it's awful. Some of my nitpicks were the scavenger hunt, Scooby-Doo-esque, witch hunt he makes Riggs go on. But, that didn't bother me as much this time. I enjoyed it. And look, Saw is almost at the point for me when we do a Saw film, it's at the Halloween, Nightmare, Friday place where it's the good, warm, fuzzy feelings. All right, I like being in this Saw universe. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to be too negative, except for, there's a few movies. But for the most part, I just like being in this universe. I like these stories. These movies, I've said it every time we've done a Saw, work so much better if you watch them back to back to back to back to back to back, in my opinion. Like a really good TV series. But I do like some of the additions here. I like Strom and Perez as a duo. I think their agent, those characters really do work. I think it's no secret I'm not the biggest fan of Hoffman. This is his best movie that he's in, though. I completely agree with Brian on that. Now, I don't like where they take Hoffman as a character, but I think the twist is good. It's good enough. And And by the way, maybe I like 3 as much as I did because 4 helps 3. Like 4 brings 3 all together. I like the introduction of Jill as far as her being a bigger character here. I think it's a really, yeah, buddy. Hey, you know what? I'm going to get it out the way. Write your iTunes reviews, or Apple Pod reviews. Get ready. Jill, call me sometime. Whenever you want to. It's going to be fine. Just letting you know. All right. Anyway, and I think still having John Kramer involved is really good. That character, to me, is almost at the Michael Myers level where can't have a Halloween movie without Mike. Kind of can't have a Saw movie without John at this point. Like, I think that's really where the franchise is. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way. I like the movies that he's in. So all in all, thought it was really good. Glad we're finally getting to it, Brother Nico. Love going back to the Saw franchise.
Yeah, same. I have said it multiple times. Saw and Scream are my 2 favorite franchises in general. And this movie is one of the better ones. I did go back and find out where I ranked it when we did the Saw rankings, or it was 31-31, whichever time we did. I had it 4th in the franchise, but like it's really splitting hairs between 2 through 4 for me. I love the movie. I love the continuity. It really feels like a chapter of a bigger story rather than a milking of an IP, which a lot of sequels feel like. So
Right.
I think it's fantastic, and it has some good traps. It has some, one trap that it's not necessarily the trap that I didn't like, but I'll get to it. But yeah, I really like this movie. I'm glad you picked it as well. I agree with what you said, Mike. When we pick Saw, when we pick one of the OGs, it's like, yeah, we're getting back in. So
yeah,
I'm glad. This was overdue. # overdue.
Yeah, it's fun to kind of venture off the path, but going back to some of our favorites just always feels good. And especially this time of year, like, felt good to sit down, October, a little cool, brisk outside, take notes on a Saw film. That was a lot of fun. I had fun with it. I'm excited to do the show. So you mentioned the traps really quick before we start, because I know we don't want to shortchange this. This movie kind of is the first one, though, that kind of, these are traps, but are they really traps? Like, they're just more so kills, in my opinion. Like, if it's a jigsaw trap, there's always a chance for someone to live. In this movie, Hoffman's just killing motherfuckers, all right? like that's, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just, even John, there's a scene there, I'm like, you sure you didn't murder this man? I'm pretty sure that's a murder. Anyway, but just, I think this movie kind of, not Jill. It starts with Amanda in part 3, but I really think it's like, his apprentices don't know how to do what he knows how to do. So I guess that was a big notice for me in this one.
Yeah. Anybody got anything else before we start the scene by scene?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. Saw Part 4, the final chapter. Oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. We open up immediately. Damn it. We open up immediately following the events of Part 3, where the very naked, very balls out corpse of John Kramer is being examined at the morgue. It's during this very graphic autopsy that a wax-coated audio tape is found inside his stomach. Sidebar, this used to be very graphic to me. I say used to be until I was exposed to this shit show that's a Terrifier franchise, but let's get into that later. Anyway, enter Costas Mandalore's detective Mark Hoffman, who was called to the scene, and we see a flashback of when Kramer swallowed the tape. Hoffman continues to listen to the tape, which contains a message from John, who warns Hoffman that it's not over. His work will continue, and the games have just begun. We cut to where 2 guys are chained by their necks to a winch-like device in the middle of the room. Trevor's eyes and Art's mouth have been sewn shut, making communication nearly impossible. Unable to see anything, Trevor accidentally activates the device they are chained to in the middle of the room. While the contraption slowly pulls them toward each other, the 2 attack each other with random hammers and pieces of metal in a panic, trying to retrieve the key from the back of Trevor's chain. Art kills him and retrieves the key and starts to use it to free himself. He does so and rips the stitches apart as he screams right into the fucking title card, "It's Saw motherfucking 4." We cut to a SWAT team led by Officer Daniel Rigg, and it's very hard for me to not to call him Riggs from Lethal Weapon, and Detective Hoffman raiding an underground area. We find out that we've seen this area before in Part 3, as I find the corpse of Detective Allison Carey, fresh with some nice old rats who have begun to eat away at the body. After securing the crime scene, Hoffman is introduced to the FBI special agents Peter Strom, friend of the show, Scott Patterson, and Lindsay Perez, Athena Karkanis. They inform him that Carrie has been their liaison, and besides their last message that was sent to them being, "Open the door and you will find me," they had also received a key with an unknown purpose. Upon investigating Carrie's corpse, they quickly realized that the trap that killed her had been inescapable, and therefore suspect someone other than John Kramer behind the murder. However, they also deduce that his accomplice, Amanda Young, could not have set up the trap on her own, leading to the conclusion that another accomplice of Jigsaw was involved in her death. Strom informs Hoffman that they are there to do what the department couldn't, find the person helping Amanda Young. What say you, Nico?
Yep, said it once, say it again. I love the opening to a Saw, Lionsgate, Twisted Pictures film. It fits a Saw flick so perfectly. Those gears, the barbed wire, I love it. Starting the film off with a Jigsaw dick and balls. Alrighty then, it's right in our face. Appreciate that, you guys. I love the bluish hue the film has in its corner scene. I'm not sure how my co-hosts feel, but I think the prosthetic corpse and organs, they look very good. I've seen criticism online, but it looks realistic to me. Fun fact, the body cast of Tobin Bell took 2 weeks to construct. My guy, Costas Mandalore, makes a badass first appearance as a main character. I love him. I love Hello Zep playing as his take plays, telling Hoffman he will be tested, and the games have just begun. Hello Zep is top 2 horror themes for me, right up there with the Halloween theme. Opening trap, I think this is a fantastic one, honestly. One blind guy, one mute guy, and a survival of the fittest. But, to be fair, the blind guy is so screwed here. I know it's life or death, but I don't understand how lips sewn shut guy Art Blank can't take something to cut the stitches, but that's just a nitpick. I know he's just trying to live right now. Lord have mercy, though. What a horrific way to die, though. If you aren't able to get free from these chains and the collar, Jesus, that would be horrible. And I really appreciate the choreography here between the two men. Julie Benz, interview, don'tgoouthere.com. She spoke on how real everything felt, and this looks so real as well. And, of course, the guy stitches tear once he gets free, though. Good visual, but pretty convenient, in my opinion. Rig, played by Lyric Bent. I love his Officer Rig. I'm glad he got a really big role in this film. I love how in a Saw film, the smallest detail is used at the end as a reveal. I for sure forgot all about the don't go through an unsecured door the first time I saw this movie. And it hurts to see Detective Carrie hanging there. I think we all agree we were big fans of hers. And like Mike mentioned, I disagree with Saw 4's traps, but Saw 3, she was definitely screwed over. She had no chance to win. Cherish your life, a great message, but it's kind of hard to take that seriously, looking at your dead coworker and partner and friend. I love Agent Perez and Strom. I love both their additions to the franchise, like you guys mentioned. This is a funny line for all of our FSU fans who listen. Strom versus Hoffman turns out to be a greater rivalry than Mike Norvell winning games without Jordan Travis. Hoffman, you can tell, is a bit threatened and irritated by Strom. This, to me, is a great opening, and I'm fully invested.
Okay, before you go, Mike, I just got to say, how dare you? Red Right Hand is up there.
Red Right Hand. Yeah. Oh, man. There's a lot of good score. Bro, this fucking naked dead corpse of Kramer's, it's gross to look at, man. But they did a real good job of making surgical shit seem gory. Like, I don't know how to explain it. I thought it was a real nice balance of like, oh, they're looking at the insides of this man's body, but it still looks like a Saw kill. Like, I don't know how to explain how they did that, but it really worked for me. Also, shout out to him. So committed to the bit that he swallowed this tape, knew he was going to fuck with people after he died. That is commitment to the bit. Lubed it up on the way down. Come on, man. He'd been better off shoving it up his. Never mind. Anyway, now one thing. Hey, major fear of mine, because you guys know I'm loud as fuck, talk a lot. Having my mouth sewn shut is just like, just shoot me in the head. Fuck that shit. I can't go with that. No, sir. That's not how I get down. That would be a fucking nightmare. I like their back and forth stuff here with the chains. Brutal way to die. You think, Mr. Muscles over there would be able to win, but like Nico said, just, kind of fucked over here. He's blind. And also, this would be like, this is like Rey Mysterio beating the Big Show to me. Their size difference is very noticeable. But anyway, it won't be the last time we mention wrestling on this show. I cried out for Detective Carrie. Not Detective Carrie. I could have saved her. Pour one out for my homie. Anyway, fuck you, Hoffman. That's all I got to say about that is fuck you. First on screen, don't like the character, but in this movie, he's fine. I do, and I think part of the reason I still don't love him in this movie is it is maybe in hindsight, maybe with the benefit of hindsight, it's very noticeable early on what Hoffman's doing. I think, I think they kind of give it away a little too early for my liking, and Strahm is onto him anyway. Like Strahm is very much from the get go, kind of like I'm looking at this guy a little sideways, but I liked it, and I like the duo of Strahm and Perez in general. Like I think they add like what feels like legitimate detective work to this movie and to the franchise. So really hooked already off this set of scenes. Great opening kill, by the way.
Yeah, from the Lionsgate animation and the score, I mean, this is a banger off rip. Maybe I'm biased, but I don't care. Like, I love the franchise. I'm not apologetic about that. But so, yeah, it's a banger. Could have done without seeing Old Man peeing in the morgue, though. But I do appreciate how it picks up immediately in the aftermath of part 3 there. Pretty gruesome stuff with his head being cut into. The harshness of the red blood against the cool blue hues. That's pretty shocking. As a pretty shocking contrast to the system. So very effective there. Hell of a chance that Kramer took with the tape. I mean, any homicide detective could have responded to the call. Great luck that it just happened to be Hoffman. First trap we see is a brutal situation. They need to work together, but one can't see, the other can't hear. That's tough. I wish we could have got a jigsaw tape here, though. Also, if Buddy was just going to rip his lip stitches open, he probably should have done that before he got the key. Then they both could have made it and lost a lot less blood. And then also, who the fuck are these guys? Like, I know the one guy, we see him later, but who's the other guy? That's why I think the jigsaw tape would have helped there. Very random and out of place trap just for the sake of giving us one, I think. I do love the continuity of this franchise, though. It really feels like one cohesive story, like I said, and I love that. So great open, great so far.
Absolutely. We cut to Officer Rigg watching an old interrogation of Jill Tuck when Hoffman comes in and urges him to go home. We find out he's been burning the candle at both ends, obsessing over trying to find my man Detective Eric Matthews since he went missing 6 months earlier. Riggs returns to his apartment to find his wife leaving him for a few days, urging him to come with her, where he makes the wrong choice and declines. The consequences of that choice? Probably chloroform gag as he is attacked off screen. We don't have any time to try to figure out who it was either because we cut to Hoffman and are greeted with another masked assailant waiting in the shadows. We cut back to Riggs, who wakes up in a bathtub and finds a videotape narrated by Billy the Doll, informing him that Eric is, in fact, still alive, standing on a block of ice. And by the way, he's got 90 minutes before he's dead. We also see Hoffman tied to a chair next to him, and Jigsaw warns Rigg that their survival depends on his obsession with saving them. God forbid he be a fucking good guy who wants to save his friends. Fuck him, right? Riggs opens a door and a timer begins to count down, and while searching in his apartment, finds a woman named Brenda chained to a mechanical chair in his living room. Another tape urges Rigg to go away and leave her behind, but he can't, and accidentally activates the chair, which subsequently begins to tear off her scalp. Rigg shoots the machine and eventually manages to free her. However, Brenda suddenly attacks him with a knife hidden under the TV. After subduing her, though, he finds a tape recorder, which instructed Brenda, who worked as a pimp, to kill Rigg, as he would arrest her for her crimes if she refused to do so. Rigg finds a note with 2 keys telling him that one gives life and one frees it. He takes one and heads out the door. We cut to the room where Hoffman and Matthews are being held, and we see flashbacks of Matthews beating the fuck out of Amanda, and then, as I remember taking extreme issue with in our review of this movie, Amanda defeating him and someone dragging his body off in a cell where we see a time lapse of him being held captive. That's it, buddy.
My man Rigg is obsessed with Jigsaw, watching old interrogations of Jill, looking through his magazines. Man, you got to disconnect from work, brother. You can immediately tell Tracy is tired of Rigg not being there for her. Even though, like you mentioned, Brian, he's trying to do good. I think it's a great line by Tracy. You can't save everyone. It's so true. One of my favorite aspects of the Saw franchise are the minuscule things like leaving an envelope in a drawer, but then 2 movies later, there's the big reveal. I love that. Our first Billy on the TV moment, it never gets old seeing that doll on a fuzzy tube TV. It's so ironic to me that all Rigg has to do to save everyone in this movie is just stay the fuck home. But his obsession won't let him. Jigsaw, I think, is the ultimate troll. Brenda in the chair with the pig mask, it's iconic. I love that alternate fan poster of her. This would be a horrible way to die, having your scalp ripped from your head by your hair. Oh my God, I can't even imagine how painful that would be. Jigsaw trolls Rig with a note, time is wasting, where all the knives should be. I freaking love that. I love the editing in these Saw movies as well. The quick jumps between the gears, Brenda screaming, Rig doing the combination. I think it's fantastic. Everyone comments on it, but the transition of throwing her through the mirror to the precinct, only in a Saw flick, boys and girls. Elite stuff. Fun fact, the seamless transitions between separate scenes in the film were not created using digital effects, but were done practically. For these transitions, the sets were built in such a way that 2 separate scenes could be filmed in one shot without interruption. I think that's great. I love the flashbacks of Matthews. What's happened to him since destroying his foot? God damn. Petting mice to keep company. This is torture. Death may be better. Another great set of scenes to me.
Again, Jill Tuck. Hello there. How you doing? Anyway, I got to feel bad for my man Rig, right? Because we've all been in a situation where, yeah, you got all this home stuff and that's great and everybody's a little sad at you, but got to go to work. Bills got to get paid. Got a job. Can't lose that job. Got to pay bills, even though he's obsessed. Like you said, Nico, he could have saved everybody by just chilling at the crib. Anyway, iconic pig mask shot here. I also love that. And I actually, all right, so again, not that I don't like the acting behind the character of Hoffman, because he's a fake, charming son of a bitch. Like, be hard not to fall for him. And in this scene, he just has that like on-screen smug smirk that I'm like, God damn it. He's like winning over Perez in the moment, in my opinion. And there's a bunch of these really quick cuts that Saw is known for. I love the editing in this movie. Typically, I think it's a plus for Saw as a franchise all around, but it is really noticeable in this film. This hair pull kill or scalp pull kill, whatever the fuck you want to, or it's not really a kill, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it's fucking brutal. It's nasty. We just got done watching, or all of us, yeah, I guess all of us just got done watching Terrifier 3. And this, so I want to be clear when I say this, the gore here, this Terrifier 3 is what a lot of people think Saw is, right? Like, these things on the screen that we're watching right now mean a lot more because of the way it's shot, the way it's done, how in pain the people look. And I just think watching it, having my scalp pulled from behind via my hair is fucking miserable. Oh, God, it makes my skin crawl to even think about it. I think it's brutal. Again, the first time I saw this, I was not expecting Phoenix. Oh, sorry, wrong Eric Matthews. Was not expecting Eric Matthews to be alive, so I was excited to see him. And I'm excited to see him anyway because Saw 2 is the best Saw.
Yeah, slows down a bit here early on until Rig gets got. That's pretty tense. Man's apartment looked like Dexter Morgan was about to grab him. But it does lead to our first Jigsaw tape. Hell yeah. And I say that, I love that because I'll be honest, up until this point, until you hear, see the Jigsaw tape, it doesn't really feel like a Saw movie to me. Like, the characters were familiar, but it doesn't really feel like Saw to me until we hear and see Billy the puppet. And this is the first movie in the franchise that didn't open with someone in a trap. So, and then the first trap we didn't get the tape. So anyway, the trap pulling the hair, yeah, that hurt me. I hate brushing my own hair sometimes because it gets tangled. And I'm bad. I get out of the shower and just put my hair up, and then I don't brush it for 3 days. So it sucks brushing my hair. So this seems like my worst nightmare, other than 2 hot girls showing up asking to use the phone because their car broke down. But
free fucking pizza.
Telling her to hold on when her scalp is literally being pulled off against her will, that was fucking hilarious. As is telling her not to touch anything. Like, come on, dude. You just freed her. She's getting her head pulled off, and you're like, don't touch anything. The funniest thing was him pulling her hair to detain her. Like, that scene back to back to back, that shit was funny, unintentionally funny. Hell of a scene transition when he threw her through the mirror. That was awesome. Like you said, Nico, practical effects. That was great. Also, don't know if you noticed, but Jill Tuck was wearing the same clothes in those 2 scenes. I'm not sure if you just said that, but yeah. Great flashback showing us how Matthews got there and filling in some gaps we didn't see before. Yeah, another really solid set of scenes.
So you said this was the first one to not open with a trap. You guys know the franchise better than me. Is it the only one, or how many do you know off the top of your head? I mean, you guys have seen way more.
I have a CTE.
Okay, Nico?
I know 5 starts with 1, 6 starts with 1, 7 starts with 1. Can't remember Jigsaw because that movie fucking sucks. Spiral starts with 1.
And Spiral fucking sucks.
And
What
Saw
about-
X. I've only seen Saw X once, so I can't remember on that one.
I can't remember. I don't remember.
I feel like where it came in the timeline that it probably wouldn't start, but I don't know. Anyway, we cut back to Riggs' apartment where SWAT enter and find Brenda's corpse. Strom checks the body and says, "It started." They find pictures of Matthews and Hoffman and try to deduce how they fit into the puzzle. While examining those, Strom finds 4 pictures of Jill Tuck that don't fit and decides to interrogate her. Perez tries to play good cop and is immediately chewed up and spit out by Jill, and she leaves the room. We cut back to Matthews and Hoffman, and we see someone with a gun enter and sit down at the monitors, and we see a countdown clock now at 52 as we cut to the Alexander Motel, where Rigg arrives to face its second test. He enters room 261 using the key where he finds a picture of his wife, a pig costume, and another tape. The audio message tells him to abduct the hotel manager, Ivan Lansness. We cut back to the interrogation room, though, in Jill Tuck, where Strom has now taken over. We see multiple flashbacks to the clinic and the workshop where Kramer is building a crib, and we see the Billy doll for the very first time. We cut back to the hotel where Rigg now has Ivan use the key and open an adjoining door, where we see all of the pictures of his victims hanging up around him. He finds another tape that instructs him to place Ivan into the trap. Disgusted by the pictures and an ensuing tape of Ivan raping someone, Rigg forces him into the chains to start his own game. Ivan has to either gouge his eyes out within 60 seconds or be dismembered by the contraption. As he can only bring himself to sacrifice one of those eyes, his limbs are ripped off of his body. Rigg finds another clue instructing him to return to where it all began, and we see a flashback of a younger Rigg who attacks a man suspected of what we can only assume is physical and sexual abuse of his daughter or stepdaughter, Jane. Now bleeding, the man yells at Rigg, telling him that he just made the biggest mistake of his life.
Brutal death, I assume, for Brenda. I mean, I just have to assume she died. She had the will to live, though. I appreciate her effort in trying, at least. Strom walks into the damn apartment doing some elite detective work, finding those messages on the walls the average cop didn't see. Mike, you stole my thunder. I was going to break out the old Call Me Sometime. Betsy Russell, Jill, Call Me Sometime. I love the green hue to the scenes with Eric Matthews on the ice as well. I think Saul does a great job with the green and blue hues to the shots. Hoffman, he cracks my ass up. You hear me? You fucking motherfucker, with the gag in his mouth. I've always laughed at that. Shout out friend of the show, Julian Richings. He's the vagrant in the shitty rundown motel. You can listen to his interview as well. He's a very well-spoken man. I really enjoyed that interview if you want to go check it out. Once Rigg sees the picture of his wife, She Needed You, I almost thought the film was pulling a 7 with his wife's head in the box as you see hair sticking out. I was like, they're not going to do this, are they? Cecil, he gives me buying 305 cigarettes and a Fountain Mountain Dew at Circle K vibes. Take that with what you will.
What the fuck?
Strom, he can't get a confession from Jill, but you know who could? Russ motherfucking Cole could have. I love all these flashbacks of John. Saw 4 is what I call the origin of Jigsaw, how he became him. I love all this stuff so much. Look at John glowing, showing Jill his new warehouse, the little Billy doll. And I love the editing as Rigg struggles with what to do with Ivan. He is beginning to see what Jigsaw sees with these people. However, Ivan, he absolutely deserves this treatment. Some others are a huge reach with their being in a game to me, but not Ivan. This is a gnarly trap. This is one of those traps and victims where you're like, yeah, this guy deserves whatever happens to him. I love seeing Ivan being torn to pieces, honestly. This guy deserved his death. And cherry on top, he gouged one eye out first before he got ripped to pieces, so good on Saul. Rigg wasn't messing around. He was ready to whoop this principal's ass, and rightfully so.
Yeah. I love Strom. Like, I love the character Strom. I love it. Elite detective work, like you worded it. His ability to sniff out this bullshit, see the pictures on the wall, all that stuff. And, man, I just hate how they're setting my guy Rigg up. I'm going to call Rigg my guy, man. I love this character. Man, it's just dedicated to his craft, and now he's suffering for it. Come on, man. What's wrong with these people? Tired of this shit, John Kramer. Anyway, now look. I get what Perez was trying to do. Got chewed up, spit out. I would have taken Strom's approach and just sat and talked with Jill personally. Maybe a coffee date, long walk on the beach. Oh, sorry, my bad. I do like the cutting back and forth, or the cutting back to Matthews and Hoffman as a reminder for the audience that Rigg is still playing this game. There's like every Saw movie, you have this storyline running congruently with this storyline, which reminds me of a TV series. You have your A plot and your B plot essentially. And I do think that it's nice to kind of go back and see Matthews, see Hoffman kind of there, especially when you know what Hoffman's up to. I like that as a reminder. And I like how sometimes in these Saw movies, I don't like that back and forth, and I do like it here. Look, this fat ass is one of the few people that I would absolutely, you don't need a trap. Just kill this motherfucker. We don't need to put him through anything. We can torture him if we want. But a trap? Nay. I wouldn't save this motherfucker if he were on fire. Goodbye, you weird fuck. That's all I had.
More good stuff progressing the story early in this set of scenes. Nothing major until Rigg gets to Fatty in the hotel. In the clinic waiting room there, Buddy was brave as fuck. It's one thing to open hand slap another man, but to do it and then sit back down like there wouldn't be consequences, that's crazy. Tubby's hotel room setup was disturbing to say the least. He deserved whatever happened to him. Don't feel sorry for him. If he wants sympathy, he can find it in the dictionary between shit and syphilis. The constant cuts from the room to his victims, very effective. It was disturbing and uneasy. So bravo, hats off to all involved in making that scene. Rigg punching asshole in the face is the kind of police brutality I endorse. Hell yeah. Slower set of scenes, but it was effective and progressed our story. And also, Nico, I want to mention, you said Russ Cole would have got the confession. He would have. And then he would have told him to kill himself. So I respect it.
That's right. We open back up in the interrogation room and see Jill locking up at the health clinic that she works, where the man who we saw cause a scene in an earlier flashback, Cecil Adams, one of her recovery patients, is back, asking to be let in for his jacket. When she does, he takes her by knife point and then slams the door into her pregnant stomach, where Kramer finds her bleeding and takes her to the ER. There we see an all too familiar scene play out as the couple are told that they had lost the baby. We cut back to present day, and Strom and Jill are interrupted by an officer that pulls Strom and Perez to the hotel, where they have found Ivan. The two deduce clues that lead them to another room, where they find two folders, and Strom rips an overhead camera down, telling Perez that they are the two Jigsaw targets. We cut back to Matthews and Hoffman, and Matthews has had fucking enough and tries to jump off the ice and hang himself. The mysterious man who is monitoring the two run to his rescue, and Hoffman recognizes him as Art Blank, who handled the IA investigation where Rigg punched the pedo dad. Matthews asks who the fuck he is, and we cut back to Rigg arriving at the elementary school. As he arrives, he finds Rex and his wife, Morgan, in one of the classrooms, chained back to back and impaled by several metal spikes. When Rigg finds them, Rex has already succumbed to his wounds because the skewers that had pierced his major arteries while only inflicting non-lethal wounds on Morgan. We see a flashback before Rigg's arrival and how Morgan had been given a choice to die of blood loss or remove the spikes, which eventually resulted in her fuckface husband's death. Upon investigating the classroom, Rigg finds another tape asking his judgment on Morgan and whether or not she'd learned her lesson or not, and then a picture with Tracy instructing him to go home. He gives Morgan the key and tells her to save herself while leaving the school, setting off the fire alarm to ensure that she is found.
All right, this is completely unrelated really to this, but I just wanted to say I'm half Taiwanese and barely know anything about the Chinese zodiac. However, fun fact, if anybody listening cares, I am a goat, not the greatest of all time, just a goat. This flashback scene with Jill losing her baby is tough. Billy Otis does a great job. I'm not sure why Jill doesn't try and just run, though. Seeing the blood stain in her clothes is so sad, and Tobin does such a good job showing his devastation, seeing his injured wife. Fun fact, the nurse who takes Jill into her care during her miscarriage is Deborah, the same person who gave Lynn Denlin a stern reprimand in Saw 3. You can see the soul, the light leave his eyes when he's told he's lost his son. Big oh shit moment for Strom finding out they're the two Jigsaw targets. Rewatching these is a subtle clue that Hoffman is the likely accomplice, because how would a dead Jigsaw know this? Like, my Mike kind of mentioned a little bit ago, it's kind of like rewatching the first Scream. Like the first time you watch it, you'll never pick up on Billy and Stu, but on a rewatch, like, yeah, it's them two, obviously. Another oh shit moment as Hoffman and Art Blank realize they've met before when they lock eyes. Donnie Wahlberg, with great facial acting as well. Man, what a miserable life he's lived the past few months. Great jump scare as the wife wakes up attached to her husband. This is another gnarly trap. For you to survive, you must remove these impalements that will kill your husband. That's tough. But I love the rage that Morgan shows as she continues on pulling those spikes out of her. It looked realistic to me. But it was hilarious to me that Rick doesn't help her get free from this, considering how far she had come in the trap. Like, he did everything to help Brenda, did all that. He spared Ivan as long as he could, but for her, all he did was pull the fire alarm and gave her his jacket. I laughed.
Hey, man, it was slightly humorous. I get it. So here we get a little bit of backstory on John and Jill. So we go over this every Saw movie. Bears repeating. He does have this holier-than-thou act that he's never killed anyone, and he has this God/savior complex. And I understand all this bad stuff happened, right? You got the miscarriage with Jill. He's sick. All this bad stuff happened to them, but that does not excuse the shitty behavior. This man is a murderer, whether he likes it or not. And I guess that's part of the charm, isn't it? Is that he is actually a murderer. He just doesn't want to see it. Anyway, Hoffman is much easier to sniff out than some of the, some of the other apprentices that come later. But to me, and I said it already, every one of these apprentices ends up being so much worse at this than him. Like, if Hoffman's the one setting all these traps, or at least the ones that we see in the present day, then the only one that ends up being kind of decent is Dr. Gordon in the end, but that's another movie review for another day. I do like Hoffman's ability to kind of manipulate Rig here. Like, obviously he had the situation where he hit the dad, and Hoffman kind of sticks up for him. So at this point, Rig is willing to do anything or go to bat for him, trying to win him over on his side. I like that. I think this whatever you call it, with all the stakes or whatever through the husband and wife, I think it's really creative, really good kill, really good stuff. That's a good trap. So if Hoffman did that one, kudos to you. Most of them stink, but I think this one's good. And I like that the wife kind of gets her revenge. This little shrimp guy is a woman abuser and a kid abuser. Man, fuck this guy up, man. If I were Rig, I'd have shot that motherfucker in the face. Even if he was already dead, I'd have shot him again. Go ahead, Dustin.
Yeah, the random sex worker trying to fuck Kramer in the parking lot was unnecessary as hell. I mean, what's the point? I know that's the hooker from Saw 2, but that's forced and an unnecessary inclusion, in my opinion. Cecil made the biggest mistake of his life when he slammed that door open into Jill. He couldn't have began to fathom the chain of events that would cause. You fucking moron. Nico, I do have to ask you, you love the Saw franchise like I love it, but you criticized The Captive for its nonlinear storytelling because it was confusing. Does it not bother you in this franchise? Like, I'm genuinely curious. I mean, we're all over the timeline here.
Nope, I follow it very easily.
When it works, it works. When it doesn't, it doesn't. There you go.
It's the same thing with me giving him shit about Scream shoehorn characters in, but yet Saw's doing it too. So it's like, it's fine. It's whatever. You like what you like.
You like what you like. Okay.
When it hits, it hits.
Oh, it hit in The Captive just
Somehow
fine.
Dr. Gordon's still alive, but it's not okay. Never mind. Anyway.
That's Carrie Elwes is the shit. Hell of a jump scare.
Yeah, drizzling shits. Anyway.
No, I have the talking pillow. Hell of a jump scare when old girl whips her head up with the rods through her. But it's kind of unbelievable. I mean, she went from practically dead to energetic as fuck. Why? Okay. Just to scare us, the viewer. The editing when she's pulling the rods out is on par with the franchise, a.k.a. awesome. Great camera cuts and usage of visual effects like filters and slow motion. So that was just awesome. But yeah, I'm still in love with this film.
Back with Matthews and Hoffman, Eric asks Art Blank why he doesn't just kill him, and we immediately cut back to the school where Strom and Perez find Rex's body and Morgan. Perez receives a phone call telling her that Art Blank was the lawyer that got off all three of the prior victims, and is also Jill Tuck's lawyer. Just as we hear that revelation, one of the CSIs sets off a trap, and the arrow stabs one of the other investigators in the fucking neck, killing her. Dexter Morgan would never. This doesn't faze Strom whatsoever, and he and Perez set off to explore the rest of the building, where they find a Billy doll with another cassette recorder around his neck. The audio tape tells Perez that her partner will soon take the life of an innocent man, and warns her that her next move is critical. She sees the eyes of the puppet moving and takes a closer look. That's probably the next move he was talking about. She sees the eyes of the puppet moving just as the doll's face explodes, severely injuring her face and neck with shrapnel. As she is taken to the hospital, she gives Strom the keys sent to them by Detective Carey. Back now with Matthews and Hoffman, Eric decides to play dead and attacks Art. We see the water flow on the seesaw trap almost electrocute Hoffman. What would have happened now that you know the ending? We find out Blank was told what to do by someone as well and hands Eric a gun with one bullet, telling him to live or die, that he makes the choice. Furious, Strom returns to the interrogation room and wants to know everything that happened between Jigsaw and Art Blank. We see a flashback as Jill tells the story of what happened after the miscarriage. Diagnosed with cancer, we see Kramer get into a wreck, i.e. attempted suicide, where he is impaled but survived. Jill tells Strom that a different person emerged from the wreckage, as we see a flashback of her finding pictures of his first test subject, Cecil, whom he abducted and strapped to a chair. Cecil had to press his face into several knives to escape the trap. Otherwise, he would eventually bleed to death due to 2 blades cutting his wrists. However, when Cecil attempts to free himself, the chair suddenly collapses, resulting in him trying to attack John. But to no prevail, as John gave him the old "Olé!", causing Cecil to run right by him and fall into a cage filled with barbed wire, where he ultimately bleeds out. Back in the flashback, Jill asks John what happened to him as she storms out of the building.
Brian, you're gonna love this first line I got. I felt the pain in Matthew's voice. I don't want to play anymore. That's the voice I make as well when Dustin picks Movie Grid. Strom saying she killed her.
Facts.
I'm just kidding. Strom saying she killed her husband is ridiculous. I thought that was reaching. Unnecessary kill by the crime scene worker getting harpooned, but hell, why not? I love the visual of the Billy the puppet sitting surrounded by candles. I thought that was really creepy. The laugh after the face explodes is petty as hell and a great shock to the viewer. So happy, spoiler alert, that Perez lived and we get to see her again in Saw 6, even though she does die there. Intense moment as Art gives Eric the gun and 1 bullet. Live or die, you make the choice. Love that. Strom is fucking livid, interrogating Jill like a sprained ankle, nothing to play with. I'm glad I could get that line in after I missed it a couple episodes ago. You can see how soulless and detached John is now that he's lost his son. No life in his voice as he tells Art to get the fuck out. That's crazy that John blames Jill, honestly. I mean, we all handle trauma differently, but blaming her isn't right to me. But man, did his life fall apart fast, though. That, you lost your kid and a cancer diagnosis. Goodness gracious. A few weekends ago, I told Kostas that this scene with John and Cecil is my personal favorite of the franchise. Like, this is where John becomes Jigsaw. Time is an illusion. Another Rust Cole vibe to me. Rust and Jigsaw. I would actually watch the hell out of that show. We need to make that happen right now. I love how monotone and flat John's voice is talking to Cecil. The "I don't have a fucking soul" line by Cecil cracks me up. We used to say that all the time playing Halo 3 back in the day online. Absolutely love when John places the knives in front of Cecil and the sound drop. I want to play a game. I get chills every time. Fun fact, the knives that were used in the knife chair trap were actually made of wood. You have to match your face to the ugliness of your soul. Lean forward into the knives. Press hard enough and release the restraints that bind you. Live or die, Cecil. Make your choice. Such a simple yet effective trap. That's horrifying to me. Jigsaw did this on purpose, though. This wooden chair obviously wasn't strong enough for this trap. He wanted Cecil to get free and trap himself in that barbed wire. This might have been the trap Mike was talking about earlier, basically killing the guy, and I agree. But hey, fuck that guy. I love his anger outburst when Jill asks. I love his anger outburst when Jill asks what's happened to him. The devastation he shows. I think it's perfection. I love the broken glass coffin reveal as well as this set of scene ends.
Yeah, man. If I were Eric Matthews, this Eric Matthews, not Boy Meets World Eric Matthews, I'd want to live if I were him. He was doing pretty well. If I were this Eric Matthews, I'd want to die too, man. Like, he just tells him, please, or kill me, and I've been like, yeah, I would have done the same shit, bro. I'm standing on ice. I don't like when my feet get cold. That is a major annoyance of mine. So that's automatically just like, all right, I'm out. I want to be out. Uh, you know, it's like a weird Billy the Puppet sequence here. Fuck you, Billy. I said audibly to my screen this rewatch. I don't really know why. I just felt like doing it. And again, we get a traditional jigsaw trap here in a minute, but there is some of this stuff where I'm like, I mentioned it in my open. It's just tiny nitpicks, right? This is still good stuff, still good, like good Saw-like stuff, but I could tell it's not a jigsaw trap. Like, these are very intentional about hurting, inflicting pain on the people and trying to kill them. That's the way I interpreted it. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it wasn't written that way, and I'm just a big dum-dum, which is very possible. That's typically what happens. I do think, as much as I love Jill, I do think we spend a little too much time with the interrogation stuff with her. Like, I don't really know what more you're expecting, and I'm going to be hypocritical. It's not that I didn't like the fact that we're getting John and Jill backstory. I just felt like it doesn't help the character, make me feel bad for him, like he's still a murderer, like this is still what he's doing. And some of the people that he ends up murdering don't deserve to die. So anyway, but I love this reveal where we see Jill kind of finding his stuff, like finding out what he's up to. I think that really does add a little touch of humanity to the character, where he's not just this big bad boogeyman. Like, it's like, oh, this is some old fucker that has cancer. I'm not gonna lie, I laughed out loud when this man basically chloroformed a guy in broad daylight. The fuck? Walking the street from behind, pow, just gassed a man in public. All right, man. And I love this trap. I do. This is the birth of Jigsaw, like you mentioned, Nico. Love the quick cuts. Love the way it's shot. And this is the trap I was talking about. While I think he deserved to die, and I thought it was a really cool trap, come on, man. You knew the chair was weak. You knew you were going to be able to get away from him, and you set that fence up there on purpose. So, like, this is legitimate murder. But, hey, like you said, fuck that guy.
So, Mike, you said something there that, as soon as you said it, this popped in my head. Making my way down Fat Town, walking fast, smell this gas, and I'm asleep now.
Yeah. He definitely did that. He's like, hey, what's up? Just covered it like broad daylight. Nobody saw that shit. Come on.
I love the twist of them all having the same attorney. The plot thickens. It's thicker than Kurt Angle's neck. Pretty terrible forensics work to set off that trap. Masuka would never. Perez getting fucked up with the shrapnel is always tough to watch. She didn't deserve that. Good layering with Jill's attorney. Also very intentional over-the-shoulder camera angles when Jill is looking through the papers at John's lair. Cameraman made sure we got to look at Jill's cleavage. Did Kevin Dunn shoot this? That's a very niche WWE reference, but if you know, you know. Seeing Kramer stalk his prey when Cecil was meandering about makes me wish that he and Dexter Morgan could have worked together a couple of times. They both have a code, and it would have been masterful to watch. Also, I just wanted to say the words meandering about. John wasted no time easing into his traps. He started big and only went bigger. Cecil's trap is brutal as fuck, and the sick fuck just stood there and watched him fall into the razor wire. Sheesh. But yeah, I'm ready for the finish here.
All right, here it is. Back in the interrogation room, after hearing Jill's story, Strom realizes that her son, Gideon, had the same name as John's first building as a civil engineer at the Gideon meatpacking plant. Meanwhile, Rigg arrives at the abandoned plant and finally reaches the room where Eric and Hoffman are trapped. Art has one of Jigsaw's devices strapped to his back and is forced to oversee the game until the 90-minute timer for Rigg's game expires, but notices as he sees Riggs enter that if the entrance door is open before the time runs out, Eric's head will be crushed by 2 large ice blocks. And I'm going to tell the next bit a little bit out of order because I don't really know of another way to get across the craziness that goes on here. So, as I see Rigg through the door's window, Eric frantically tries to ask him not to open it. To prevent him from entering, he shoots him with a gun Art gave him earlier. Even though he is shot in the chest, Rigg breaks through the door and witnesses Eric's death. Believing that Art is responsible for the game, Rigg shoots him in the head when the latter reaches for his bag. However, Art merely grabbed a tape recorder with the final message for Rigg. The tape tells him that he had failed his test, as it was not his task to save Eric, but to let him save himself. Just as Rigg realizes his mistake, Hoffman frees himself from the electric chair and reveals himself as Jigsaw's accomplice. He ends the game and leaves the room while Rigg lies on the floor and succumbs to his gunshot wounds, telling him game over. Only moments after Rigg, Strom had also reached the building. While searching for Rigg, he discovers another room and opens it with the key that he and Perez received from Detective Carey. Inside the room, he finds the bodies of Jigsaw and Amanda Young. It is revealed that the events of Saw 4 took place at the same time as Saw 3, except for the opening scene at the morgue. As Strom enters the room, Jeff Denlon, one of the third film's main protagonists, aims his gun at him and demands to know the whereabouts of his abducted daughter, Corbett. Strom kills him in self-defense, fulfilling Jigsaw's prediction that he would kill an innocent man. Moments later, Hoffman reaches the room and locks him up inside, along with the corpses of Jigsaw, Amanda, Jeff, and the latter's wife, Dr. Lynn Denlon. The scene shifts back to John Kramer's autopsy once more, where Hoffman listens to the tape found in his stomach. What did you think of that ending?
I'm not sure why Strom must ask Jill where the building is. The police can't map this place? Jesus Christ, man. Beginning of an intense ending as Strom and Rigg make it to Gideon Steel. Spoiler alert, I love that the ending of 3 and 4 happened simultaneously. It's such a great revelation on your first watch. Was an oh shit moment in the theater when Strom finds the keys with Jeff and Lynn's family picture. Friday Part 3. This is how you recap an ending of the previous film in an effective way, in my opinion. Don't hate on me, Friday 3 fans. Chaotic ending here, and holy shit, Matthews head crushed by 2 giant ice blocks. Insane kill, and I love it. Great timing by Art hitting play right before getting shot, though. That was kind of convenient for Art, but hey, it worked. Hello, Zep. Chills, like always. Nice recall to never going through an unsecured door in the classic Saw recap montage scenes. I love those every time. Nice reveal that Hoffman is an accomplice to Jigsaw. A solid ending, but after 1 and 2's epic endings, it just can't quite compete with those two. Those two are legendary. More great flashbacks with Hoffman showing his involvement all along. You know Rigg has to be pissed seeing Hoffman still alive and involved, though. I love seeing Hoffman slam the door on Strom and cutting back to the morgue listening to the tape. Damn, I want to watch Saw 5 now. Y'all down for a review? The games have just begun.
Man, I do feel bad. I feel bad for Rigg here because, like I already said, he's definitely like looks up to Hoffman, or like not looks up to, but trusts him in a way because of everything they've shown already. And he's just fucking faking, sitting his ass there, smug ass smirk. Fuck that guy. Anyway, the ending of the movie is always big for this franchise, and I do think this movie pulls it off well enough here. Like I criticized it before, and I still am kind of like on the fence, but I think I'm on the side where I like how they end Saw 3 and Saw 4 congruently together here. Like I'm on the side of liking it now more than I ever have. Every movie we do is always under further review. That's how this works. So I'm willing to change my opinion if it catches me in the right mood. So that's what happened here. So I've verbalized it as a complaint. I don't agree with that anymore. I think it works really well. This kill of Art Matthews is a top 5 franchise kill for sure, in my opinion. I don't know if it's my favorite, but it really ranks up there. The first time I ever saw it, it caught me way off guard. I was not expecting it. Strom did, in fact, kill an innocent man, a stubborn and annoying-ass one, but he was, in fact, an innocent man, technically, if you want to be technical. Again, I don't love the reveal of Hoffman as an accomplice, but it works, right? Like, I still think they tipped their hand early in the film with Strom being onto him, and maybe, again, benefit of hindsight. But I think it works well enough. Like Nico mentioned, doesn't hit 1 or 2 levels, but I do think it works well.
Yeah, great tension as we see the ice blocks above Matthew's head, see Rigg navigate through the building, and then see Strom show up. Drama at its finest. TNT should give him a call. Great reveal when we see that Buddy in the room with Matthew and Hoffman is Buddy from the opening track, and that he has a gimmick on his back. A nice tie-in with tie-in of Jeff from Part 3. I love that all this has been happening simultaneously. Then, holy shit, Matthew's gone. Cold as ice, man. What a kill. Another when Rigg put a hollow through the dome. Jesus. Great reveal of his test and how he failed with that iconic score. And then a hell of a final twist when Hoffman stands up and frees himself from the chair. I love the cuts back and forth to show us that, how he was connected all along. Great finish. I will say that the reveal there was easier to see coming than the twist in, say, the first one, but still well done. It's just crazy that John Kramer died in 2006, but we got 7 movies after and continue to get them. Never change. Never change, Hollywood.
Cold as ice. I see what you did there.
The GOAT. That's why he's the GOAT. All right, let's jump into social media comments and questions. I'll do Instagram. We only got one comment. Byron Weaver 33. I enjoy all the Saw movies, but after Saw 3, it started to take a dip in quality, in my opinion, up until Saw 6. If Amanda Young survived the events of Saw 3, I honestly think that Saw 4 or 5 would have been better movies. I understand where you're coming from, brother, but I mean, technically, she's still in the movies, in the flashback. So, but I respect your opinion. That's all I got for Instagram, though. Do we have anything on X?
Yep, I've got X, artist formerly known as Twitter. TJ Pittenger said Elite. Kevin Scanlon said, so this is actually my second favorite entry in the franchise, and slotting it just behind Saw 6. I gave it a 9 out of 10 on my last rewatch, which surprised me considering the first couple of watches always had me thinking it was mid. It just seemed to hit me differently this last watch.
Same, Kevin.
Randy Smith, Go Dog, said, I don't hate it, but I don't love it outside of the first 2. I'm not that big of a Saw fan. Okay. Mookie said, underrated entry in the Saw franchise due to it feeling like a side mission. Still love this one. 3.5 out of 5.
I've said that as well.
And then Sean the Glee Man said, it's one of the better entries in the series, that's for sure. Poor Donnie just had to lose his head over it. Aha. See what you did.
Nothing on the Book of Faces.
Okay. Saw 4 was made for a budget of approximately $10 million and grossed worldwide $139.4 million at the box office, which is why we got fucking 20,000 more of these, more to come. And I actually liked it when they released these year. Like, I really did. Like, 1, 2, because that's when I started getting into them, so I was waiting on the new release as they were coming out. So I thought I missed that time period. I really do. A lot of money being made in the Saw franchise.
Y'all got any fun facts?
I don't. I figured you and Dustin would have them.
I got some. A coroner was on set at all times for the autopsy scene. And then, funny enough, the autopsy scene was passed completely uncut by the MPAA. That's crazy. MPAA, they're fucking morons. As part of a running gag in the series, the filming crew would hide what they call a fart machine in one of the sets and make it go off in a particularly serious scene to see how long the actor or actress could keep a straight face. This time, Lyric Bent was the victim. He actually managed to remain in character a couple of seconds before bursting into laughter. That's my kind of humor. That's my kind of rib. I love it. And then last one I got is the first version of the film, or the first version of the script, explored John Kramer's life. It described how a burglar entered his house and killed his parents when John was still a child. This script was later used as the basis for Marcus Dunstan's film, The Collector. Interesting.
Shout out Marcus Dunstan.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's jump into our favorite kill, least favorite kill, and the rating. Does anybody in particular want to kick us off?
Yep, I do.
Go ahead, Dustin.
So, favorite kill, come on. Could it be anything else? 2 ice blocks, 1 Wahlberg. That takes the cake. Least favorite kill for me, the guy with his eyes sewn shut, because we didn't even get an explanation of why he was in that trap, and the other guy could have just ripped his mouth open before he killed him, because he did it in the end anyway. Rating, I have this one behind Saw 2, and Saw 6 as the 4th best in the franchise, but that's not a knock. It's damn good. I love the continuity, and it really feels like a chapter of a bigger story rather than a forced sequel to milk and IP, like I said. I gave it an 8.
Go ahead, Nico.
I'll go ahead and go. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike. I'll go after you.
All right, I'm quick. My favorite kill is Eric Matthews because, again, I think it's top 5 kill in the franchise. And my least favorite is actually Brenda because I know she has her, scalp pulled or whatever, but we don't actually see her die, quote unquote. Like, we're just, like Nico said, assuming that it happened. I didn't like that. I felt like that would have been a really cool on-screen death. Okay. I like this film now more than I ever have. If I watched it again, maybe I feel differently. Maybe I was in a good mood. Like I said, the weather is right. It's the best time of year for these movies, and I had a great time with it this time. I even liked Hoffman more than I normally do, so that should let you know the kind of mood this movie caught me in. I think it's the right amount of gore. I love the story as it kind of starts to weave in from all the previous 3 and into the next one. I love the way they set these Saw movies up, and this is like Dustin said, another chapter in the story, almost like John Kramer will never truly finish his story. Shout out to Cody Rhodes, baby. I'm giving this movie an 8.
All right, favorite kill, got to go with Eric Matthews, but Ivan was close, though. I really like that Ivan kill, too. That's a really good one. Least favorite kill, I got to go with my man Officer Rig. He just got shot. I mean, running through a door. Damn it, man. I liked Officer Rig. Like I said, this is my second favorite in the franchise. I really love 4, 5, and 6, and that's probably a hot take to the Saw community, but I love the flashback stuff with John. Like 1, 2, and 3, like he's sick or just laying on the floor the whole time. I like seeing my dog Jigsaw being the GOAT, being my GOAT. That's why he's the GOAT. I have very few minor nitpicks. I love the Cecil scene. It's my favorite entire franchise. Great kills. I love following Officer Rig. I gave it a 9.5.
Hell yeah.
My favorite death is the random fucking CSI person at the elementary school that nobody gave a shit about. That thing was funny as hell. I loved that. My least favorite death was Matthews because the death itself was great. But, I mean, he's my favorite guy, man, in the franchise, so I hate that he fucking bit it. I've talked enough tonight, I think. I gave the OG a 9.5. I gave Saw 2 a 10. I gave Saw 3 a 7. I'm going to give this one a 9.5 as well, right there with the original. I love this one.
Okay. So that gives us a composite score of an 8.75. IMDb has this one at a 5.9. Rotten Tomatoes, you may want to sit down for this. 18%.
Yeah, I saw it earlier.
Oh, fuck off.
Oh, fuck them.
You know what, Rotten Tomatoes,
All right.
they can take that score and stick it straight up their candy ass. We appreciate y'all listening.
That's right.
This was I really love doing these Saw reviews. Dustin, you want to announce your pick for next week before we get out of here?
Yeah, my pick is, I'm glad you said it. I forgot what it was. In my A24 watch through and my recent string of picking nothing but A24 movies when it's my turn to pick, I'm picking another one. It's called It Comes at Night. It's a great
Zoltan.
Just want to remind everybody,